So to kick off and get your brains in gear, I wanted to do a little bit of a poll. So we're going to use Mentimeter for this. So I would recommend doing it on your phone. You can just visit menti.com and then put in the code that you can see on the screen here. So that's 161477. Or Sarah will also share a link and you can just click that link if you prefer. So the question I want to ask you is, how many total visits do you think the EPRP had in January 2020? So A, 116,000, B, 136,000, C, 156,000. Has everyone managed to get onto Menti? Is that okay? I will switch my screen so that you can see that. Oh, so we're having votes coming through. Oh, okay. Very interesting. Oh, it's moving. The middle one's catching up. Whoa. Okay, so 136 seems to be the big winner right now. Anybody else want to add any more?
Sorry, I cannot access to the chat box.
Can you not? Okay, I would recommend if you log out and log back into the meeting, that might help. We've had that work a few times. Unfortunately, it's just a bit of a glitch. I don't know whether you want to try that in the first instance. Okay, well, I think everyone has probably cast their votes now. So let me flick back to my presentation. Oh, it's taking me back to the beginning. So the answer is, dramatic drum roll, 156K. So I'm afraid it's higher than you thought. Yeah, I think, as you can see as well from the graphic, this number is increasing year on year as well. So there's a lot of people using the EPRP, and there's a big opportunity to get your project out there and get known if you're using the EPRP well. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to then ask you, how confident do you feel using the EPRP? So if you just want to use the chat box for this one, and let me know. So if you rate yourselves 1 to 10, 1 being not confident at all, and 10 being super confident. Okay, fairly confident so far. Oh, there's a 1. There's a 1 in there. Someone's not happy with the, oh, 2 ones. Okay, so there's a real mix of confidence here, I would say. Very interesting to see. Quite a lot of 1. Okay. Out of interest, people who have said 1, are you Key Action 1 projects? Key Action 2 projects? Does anyone want to, feel free to turn on your mic if you want to just tell me verbally. Oh, also a mix. Oh, okay. So there's absolutely no consensus on here. That's really interesting. Okay, well, I will be handing over to Stephen now, so hopefully he can make you feel a lot more confident on things. So Stephen, are you ready to take over?
Yes, absolutely. Many thanks, Heather. Hi, everyone. And yeah, many thanks for sharing your work background and also your experience with EPRP. So yeah, there's definitely a varied level of confidence, maybe experience as well, but specifically the differences between Key Action 1 and Key Action 2. make a big difference with regards to EPRP as well. So, subject to technology, I will begin the presentation. Here we go. So I think I'll introduce myself. So my name's Stephen Green. I am a project manager with the Erasmus Plus delivery team at Ecoris, and I work in Key Action 2 in the fields of vet and adult education. I am also take on a lead role with regards to the assessment of final reports. So a key element of that stage of the project is receiving and approving the results within EPRP. So the aim of this session is just to give you an overview of the platform, how to navigate through it, and how to upload results that are of high quality. So what is EPRP? So the Erasmus Plus Project Results Platform. It's quite a mouthful, so we always refer to it as EPRP. It's a dissemination tool that provides a comprehensive overview of projects funded under the Erasmus Plus program all across Europe, as well as some projects funded under previous programs such as the Lifelong Learning Program. The platform has additionally taken over projects from previous Lifelong Learning Program or LLP databases such as EVE, EST, or ADAM. So if you do have the experience with regards to those platforms, they've all now merged together into EPRP. So for EPRP, to view the results in EPRP, the search for projects and results interface, it allows anybody to see basic information on the Erasmus Plus funded projects. So these are things such as project dates, the overall grant awarded, and the main project topics that are covered. And it also covers partnership details such as project coordinators and the partners as well. You can also search from over 71,000 Erasmus Plus projects from across Europe using an online map. So this is really helpful to find partners or to source project ideas and also to support networking as well. If you are a successful beneficiary, then the nominated contact person will have access to the beneficiary dashboard. And this is a restricted space where beneficiaries can update their profile and, more importantly, update and upload the final results. So once uploaded, all results are reviewed by either the national agency of your project, or if it is a centralised action, it's the EACEA. So there's lots of acronyms to take on board. But once approved, results are published and then they can be accessed using the search interface, and they are available to the public. So who should use EPRP? Well, all beneficiaries are strongly encouraged to upload results onto the platform. So this is for Key Action 1 and Key Action 3 projects. However, it is compulsory to upload all outputs for Key Action 2 strategic partnerships. This also includes Jean Monnet activities and any projects funded under the centralised action of sport. As part of the final report assessment, the national agencies will use EPRP to review and approve project results and also to identify good practice projects. So these were previously marked on EPRP with a little rosette, and these cover particularly well-managed projects that can be a source of inspiration for others. The European Commission also uses the tool to identify success stories, and these are marked with a star. And these are for projects that have distinguished themselves by their impact, contribution to policy making, innovative results, or creative approach, and can be a source of inspiration for others. These projects undergo a separate assessment conducted by the European Commission, and if projects are selected as success stories, they will be notified directly by the European Commission and flagged in EPRP, and this increases their visibility and profile. These projects may also be used by the Commission in the promotion and dissemination of the Erasmus Plus programme. Both good practice and success story projects will appear at the top of the search results. Therefore, it is positive to receive this recognition for a project's promotion within the platform. EPRP may also be used by prospective applicants for inspiration and to get ideas about what kind of projects are funded. It can also be useful to ensure that a planned project is unique and innovative by searching for relevant keywords, and this is especially important for any Key Action 2 innovation projects to ensure that the project is innovative. EPRP can also be used to identify potential partners for their contribution to previous projects in particular fields. And finally, the platform can also be used by other stakeholders, quite simply to get an idea of the activities and outputs being delivered by Erasmus Plus and the overall impact of the programme. So because EPRP is used by so many different users, the platform and its content is important in order to encourage connectivity and promotion of project achievements across all countries, fields and sectors. So why is EPRP used? The platform is an important dissemination tool to showcase the results of funded projects and the Erasmus Plus programme as a whole to the wider public. It is complementary to the case studies promoted by the national agencies and the European Commission in order to demonstrate the impact of the Erasmus Plus programme. So as you can see on screen, we do have a project that has been flagged as good practice by the national agency. So that's the yellow box. And again, before you'd receive a nice, lovely rosette, but I think these are no longer apply. And then it has also been selected as a success story by the European Commission, hence the blue star below as well. Success stories are selected at the end of every core year by the European Commission. And projects can be used as case studies both at national and European level to further disseminate the results of the programme, which means that your project will be disseminated all across Europe. There is also the function add to booklet, so there is a button on screen as well, and that can be used to create your own catalogue of projects for easy reference. So users can add several projects of their choice and then generate a printable PDF file. So following the completion of the contracting process, all beneficiary contact persons will receive an automated email from the European Commission inviting them to use the project results platform. Following the receipt of this email, beneficiaries are able to upload results onto the platform, but should only do so when the results, and especially for Key Action 2, the intellectual outputs, are finalised. In addition to the first email, beneficiaries are automatically notified on the last day of their project in order to prompt them to submit their results. And if there is a change of contact person, the new contact person should also receive a notification once the change has been validated by the national agency. Beneficiaries are encouraged to upload a project logo in addition to their results in order to establish a brand identity. It is important to note that these results will not be reviewed in detail by the national agency until the final report assessment stage. However, national agencies will be proactive in reminding beneficiaries to upload relevant results as they are finalised and signpost beneficiaries to the guidance available. And following project finalisation, all approved results will be published on the public interface of the platform, and as a result, they will be fully searchable and viewable to the public. So within the context of EPRP, results can be either of the following. They can be project outputs. So this is a tangible product which is produced by a project and which can be quantified. So these are required for Key Action 2 innovation projects, and all finished intellectual outputs must be uploaded to the project results platform for funding to be considered eligible for them. So for me, outputs, as they are a tangible project, I usually refer to them as a thing. So for outcomes, this is more of an intangible added value achieved through the implementation of the project, which may be difficult to quantify. These could include the delivery of activities such as training, or more abstract outcomes such as increased skills or competencies. So these are more commonly found, but not restricted to Key Action 1 and Key Action 3 projects. So results are uploaded subject to approval. However, we do welcome dynamic content, especially innovative project outputs utilising web-based materials or unique resources. So a recent example I saw was a learning resource which was uploaded, but it took the form of a graphic novel. So it really did stand out as an output within the platform. Please also be mindful that results are suitable for online dissemination. They should be easy to read, clearly structured, and should try to avoid heavy jargon within a field-specific or sector terminology. Please also consider GDPR, as these results will be made available to the public. So as EPRP is a public dissemination tool, it is important that the results published on it are finalised, of satisfactory quality, and are relevant for publication. The European Commission has produced some guidance to help beneficiaries to assess whether project results are relevant, and this guidance is available on the UK National Agency's website, which is the Promotion and Dissemination page. As part of the National Agency's review, results can either be published or, if of satisfactory quality, and if they're not of satisfactory quality, they will not be published. This is more if they are not suitable. So, for example, minutes of internal meetings are usually not relevant and are commonly subject to concerns such as GDPR. If it is the case that they're not suitable at all, if they're seen of not satisfactory quality, then they will be rejected by the national agency. So this means that they have the potential to be suitable for publication, but some further work is required from the beneficiary. A common example of this is when the Erasmus Plus logo and disclaimer are missing, or if a draft version of a result has been uploaded in error. So results can be rejected as many times as necessary until they are suitable for publication. However, the national agencies will offer guidance to beneficiaries to make sure the results are acceptable and of high quality. So as EPRP is fully searchable by the public and all published results can be viewed and displayed, EPRP can also aid beneficiaries in a number of ways. So the EPRP is a free, easy to use dissemination tool, which has a global reach. It allows beneficiaries to share their work and final project results. It can increase their visibility and the European profile of their organisation. And it can also help organisations to find new partners or project ideas. So the tool allows you to search by partner location, topic, or call year. And also the map function, as mentioned previously, that can help you select specific projects for inspiration and also networking purposes. So an FAQ is available on the EPRP homepage. This addresses basic questions such as any logging issues or the search options that are available on the platform. Beneficiary guidance has been developed by both the UK National Agency and the European Commission, and these are available on the Promotion and Dissemination page of the UK National Agency website. The European Commission has produced a guidance document for beneficiaries on how to use the Erasmus Plus project results platform. And in addition, a series of video tutorials aimed at supporting beneficiaries are available on our YouTube channel and also on the website. So these videos provide beneficiaries with an introduction to the platform, and in addition to supporting them in uploading documents and also modifying their project card. This webpage also includes guidance on how to use the Erasmus Plus logo, emblem and disclaimer within your results, and we do recommend that you refer to this guidance throughout your project lifetime. Finally, if you do require any further support, please speak to your National Agency Project Officer or allocated contact at the National Agency. Or if you do require any further support, you can always send an email to the relevant Erasmus Plus helpline inbox. Okay, many thanks for your time. I'll now hand over to Heather.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I am just going to take you through one last point. So this is the, let's see if it's going to take me to the right page now. I have a feeling it's not. No, of course not. So if we just take a quick look at the EPRP from a comms perspective. So promotion and dissemination is an area which typically projects do struggle on, particularly when it comes to final report. And I think one of the key things is to think about how you're disseminating your work on a range of different levels. So you need to show that you're doing local work, local dissemination work, national, but also international. And this really is where the EPRP comes in as a really useful tool, because you've seen how many people are accessing it just in 1 month, just in January 2020, how many people have accessed it. You've got a massive audience here. And so if you're not using it, you're losing access to this huge audience, basically. And just being visible is really, that's just step one, I would say. You also need to think about how you can use the database for your benefit, really. I would start by looking at what's going on either in your field or in your sector. You can use the advanced search functions to really narrow this down. So for instance, you could be looking at Key Action 1 projects only covering a certain topic that you're looking at, and that would show you what else is going on. I think, for instance, if you wanted to look at, let's say, early school leaving, type that in as your search term. You can see all of the other projects that are looking at exactly the same topic as you, and then maybe look at who's doing things that are similar to you, or who's doing things that could be complementary to what you're already doing. If you find an organisation that's doing something that is, you feel your work is almost the next step to what they're doing, get in contact with that organisation, use their contact details that you find on the EPRP, get in contact with them, share your results, ask if that's something they'd be interested in sharing as well. They might have a network of people working on that topic around Europe, and they could say, yeah, we've got a mailing list, we'll share your results on our mailing list. There's just a vast array of untapped people out there who are interested in the same things you are, because you're all working on projects on a similar topic. And I think that's also, it's worth using that then to build your own network. So you can't just ask people to share your results, share their results as well. Create a bit of a community around whatever your topic is. I think that's a really good way to start reaching a more international audience. The other thing to think of is very much from, as a comms person who spends a lot of time on the EPRP, just trawling through pages looking for good impact stories to share as case studies on our website, it's really important how your project summary reads. If you've got a massive wall of text and there's no grammar in there, no punctuation, and there's loads of jargon and it's difficult to read, people won't bother. People will just not look at it, put it to one side, find something else that suits, that's a bit easier to read. If you've got a project summary that's got paragraphs, headings, it's really clear exactly what you're talking about. It's optimized for web, we say, because when people are reading stuff on the web, they scan. People don't read like they do on paper, they just scan. So if you've got headings, people can flick through really easily to see the basics of your project, find out everything they need to know. And people are more likely to read and then more likely to contact you to find out more, and you're going to reach a larger audience that way, basically. And similarly to that, as the comms team, sometimes the European Commission will contact all the comms teams from all the different national agencies and say, we're focusing on this topic this month. Do you have a nice story? Can you share their EPRP page? They're not interested in seeing anything else. They just want to see the EPRP page. So if you don't have one, we can't share it with them, because that's just, it's a commission tool, so that is the format they like to receive things in, basically. So I think that's kind of another missed opportunity if you're not using it. And then the same thing applies if you have one, but it's not very user-friendly and readable, the chances are it won't get promoted as widely by other networks and stakeholders, really. So yeah, as part of making it readable, plain English is really, really important. If you Google, there's the Plain English campaign, which is an organisation set up to basically help people make their work easier to understand. They've got free guides. They've got a tool that they call the Drivel Defense, which helps you cut out your jargon. It's a free thing to use, so it's worth looking at if you're worried that your work might be quite jargon heavy. I think it happens naturally with European projects. There's always quite a lot. We love an acronym. We love to make things as confusing as possible for outsiders. So the more basic you can do it, the better, the more people you're going to reach, really. And also it's worth thinking, tying in with some of our previous conversations in this workshop, if you wanted to contact the press about your project, sending them your project summary is a really easy way for them to just be able to read everything about your project, see your results. So it's worth thinking, if they wanted more information, that's a good place to be sending the press to, really. Yeah, in terms of plain English as well, I think I understand that a lot of people don't have a lot of time, and stuff like this can be quite time consuming to go through. So at the very least, I'd just ask a colleague to read your project summary. Does it make sense? Is the spelling and grammar okay? You know, is it easy for someone who's not related to this, not worked on this, to understand? I think those are the key questions to be asking yourself, really. And that's it from me from the comms perspective. Does anyone have any questions so far for either me or for Stephen? Thank you. Any questions from anyone? Feel free to turn on your mics if you'd prefer to ask a question verbally. No, are we all good for the moment then? Okay, well, if you do have any questions as we're going through, just pop them in the chat box, and we can always come back to these things. Okay, so now we're going to hear from some case studies, because I'm sure you're sick of hearing from the National Agency now. It'd be nice to hear from some beneficiaries doing what you do, basically. So I'm going to ask them both to turn on the mics, but we are going to be speaking to Maya Linala from the IARS International Institute, and also to Dr. Steve Taylor from the University of the Highlands and Islands. So if I could ask you both, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so that we can see you a bit better. If you could both turn on your cameras, if you're happy with that, and your mics, that would be brilliant. Have we got you both? Yes, I can see you both. Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you for joining us today. It's really good to have you both here. Just to kick off, I don't know, do you want to give us a bit of an overview of your projects, your organisations, and how you work with Erasmus+? Maya, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Heather. Hi, everyone. So my name is Maya Linala. I'm a representative from the IARS International Institute. We are a user-led charity based in Southeast London. And we specialize in research, training, and evaluation in the fields of youth and equalities. Can you all hear me? It seems like Heather has just frozen.
Sorry, is it my internet potentially?
Yeah. Everyone else hearing and seeing me?
Can hear you fine, yeah?
Good. Okay, thank you. So I work as the user engagement leader and a project manager. So at the Institute, a bit about our experiences with Erasmus+. So over the years, we have delivered multiple Erasmus+ funded projects, specifically focusing on KA2 and KA3 areas. We have run successful projects in the areas of youth employment, entrepreneurship, young carers, youth radicalization, migration, and gender-based violence and discrimination. Currently, we have 6 Erasmus+ projects with partners from all over Europe. We're also a multiplier for Eurodesk UK.
Great, thank you. And Steve?
Yes, good morning. So I'm Steve Taylor. I work for the University of the Highlands and Islands up in Fort William. I, on the other hand, well, I guess a year ago, I would have counted a 1 in terms of my recognition of EPRP. I didn't even know what it was or what it stood for. So I've only been involved in 1 Erasmus project. So that this was my first one. So basically, this is Adventure Tourism Innovation Partnership with a few different partners overseas in Bulgaria, Denmark, Ireland, and somewhere else, Estonia. So yeah, I was very new to Erasmus. I was fortunate in that I did actually have one of the partners who was quite experienced, but yeah, when it came to writing EPRP results and using Mobility Tool, I did not have a clue. So while I'd had a lot of experience of Interreg and Horizon 2020, Erasmus was brand new to me. So a bit of a steep learning curve, but yeah, I mean, and if I can do it, then basically anybody can do it.
Positive from the outset. That's what we like. All of those 1s. I hope you're listening. Okay, so my first question for you both really is, when you were putting together your EPRP page, was it just you two as individuals working on it? Did you have a group pulling together the results that you wanted to include? Was it different partners? Just you as a partner? How did that work? Maya, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So we were the coordinating partner for these 2 projects that you just showed us. So that meant that we were leading on setting the page up and also uploading the results. However, we did include our partnership in the process, and we worked very closely with the partner who was in charge of dissemination and comms. Just so that we were able to produce visually appealing content with an impact. Also, throughout these 2 projects, we ensured that all the partners were regularly updated in terms of how the project page looked like. They also had the opportunity to feed back and suggest how we could edit the page, and also if they didn't want their contact details on the page, for example. Then I guess towards the end of these 2 projects, we took stock of all the different deliverables for these projects, and the deliverables that were going to be uploaded on the platform. So what I did then was I created this spreadsheet where I copied all the relevant outputs and outcomes with their titles and descriptions, and then I shared this with our partners. So this way they were able to contribute in more detail, suggest changes to titles or to descriptions or any additional resources that should be uploaded. And I thought this was a really, really good way of working because, again, it involved the whole partnership. Although we are the leading partner, so we will upload all the results. This was a very good way of getting them involved as well, and also very good to double check in case we had missed anything.
Yeah, that sounds great. Really like collaborative, good communication. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Steve, how did it work for the University of Highlands and Islands?
Okay, well, I'm going to offer a counterpoint here in that I'd love to say that it was a really collaborative process, but it wasn't. I wrote it. Yeah, basically, I think because EPRP is populated after the project finishes, then I guess some partners kind of have this perception that the project's finished, that's my work done, which is a bit unfortunate. So I did end up populating it myself. I mean, that said, the documents obviously that were created during the project were very much the work of the partnership. So I mean, I just had to put them into a sort of a palatable format for EPRP. But yeah, it was. I guess it was difficult to get people, more difficult to get people involved in that respect. But I mean, I didn't actually find it particularly difficult to do EPRP. I mean, as I said, I was brand new to it. Once you actually get in the swing of it, it's actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think, as you said, you'd worked on other European programs, so it's a similar kind of thing, isn't it? There's always something like this, I think. So how about if we were to take a look at the project summaries? Did you what information did you feel it was important to include in your project summary? Steve, should we start with you this time?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it actually at the moment. Okay, well, I mean, I'm used to writing consultancy reports. I mean, I do academic writing as well as sort of industry-facing work. So I'm used to writing in a pretty concise manner, and also laying everything out in a very logical manner and using plain English, for more of a lay audience. So I was very keen just to make sure that I set it out in a very sort of logical structure with some sort of narrative flow to it, really. So I started off with context and then talked about the objectives and who the participants were. I talked about the dissemination activities, how we managed the project, the intellectual outputs, what we did in the multiplier events, and the range of impacts. So really, I just created a very obviously laid out sort of format so that people could actually easily assimilate all the information really that was on there. I mean, there isn't a huge amount of information. I mean, it's probably only a side and a half, maybe of A4. But it was basically, what I felt were the key messages really that came from the project.
Yeah, I think you included quite a bit in terms of statistics on the dissemination side, which was very interesting. I think that's not something we see all that often, but interestingly ties in a little bit with our last week's workshop, which focused on social media. So if anyone is interested in looking more at analytics, I'd watch the recording from last week's workshop if you want to include stuff as Steve has done in his project summary. It's quite interesting to read.
Well, can I add something else there, if that's okay?
Of course.
And that was, I mean, this was written for mobility tools. So I think, I mean, I wasn't particularly aware of this at the time, but so I wrote this in mobility tool, and I did have a bit of guidance from one of the other partners who'd worked in Erasmus before, and I think she probably suggested some additional elements that maybe I didn't think about to start with, and that probably related to dissemination. And then I think, as you told me, then this automatically pulled through from mobility tool into ePRP and created the summary. So it was done in mobility tool really.
Yeah. Okay. So Maya, same question to you then. How did you go about deciding what was important to include in your project summary?
Thank you. Yeah. So similar to Steve, we decided to include a summary of our project. Again, kind of explaining why the project is important, saying a bit about the methodology as well, and the priorities that this particular project seeks to address. In addition to that, we wanted to include the project logo, link to the project website, and then our contact details, but also our partners' contact details. So to keep it quite concise and brief.
Yeah, and I think the logo is actually really nice. I think both of you have this for your projects. It's really nice to see something very visual on the page, because you can't get overwhelmed by all the writing and all of the results if you've got loads of results as well. So having something a bit more visual, like a logo, really does, I think, attract you to the page a little bit more. So thinking about results then, how did you decide what were the most important things to include? And did you organise these in a particular way? Maya, if you want to start.
Yeah, thank you. So we organised our project resources based on the different categories and the different types of results that were relevant for our project's outputs and outcomes. So we organised them in terms of resources from feedback from participants, direct effect on participants, practical and reusable resources, research materials, community building tools, dissemination materials, and then project management documents. And then I guess in terms of deciding which resources we wanted to upload, we again worked very closely with our partners in choosing the most relevant ones. Yeah, so I guess the resources we wanted to upload on the criteria for these resources, they would highlight good practices, and they would also be a source of inspiration for other organizations, but also that they would be useful and helpful to other organizations as well. Those were our 3 main criteria for uploading results.
Okay, yeah, and Steve?
Well, I guess pretty similar, really. So you have a series of headings, right? That actually help you in terms of what you should be uploading for each of those sections. Once I actually started looking at EPRP, I did check out a few other projects. I wanted to see how others had actually laid it out, because I wasn't really very sure which elements would go into which category, not having done it before. So I mean that was actually quite useful to see how other people had done it. But yeah, otherwise, I think the way it's set out is pretty logical. And I think once you actually start looking at it and get into the swing of actually populating it, then it is relatively straightforward, I would say. Yeah, it's just time consuming. Yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely taking a look at other people's pages, if you're not really sure, that's a great place to start, really. It's good to get inspiration from other people. So one thing I noticed is that both of your pages that we've focused on include your specific contact details. So I was wondering, has this sparked any more interest in your projects? Has anyone contacted you directly and said, "Oh, I've seen your EPRP page"? Maya, do you want to start?
Yep, thank you. We do get quite a few inquiries from the platform actually into our contact email address. So then obviously we show our website on our page, which is really good, because then the organizations and other individuals actually go on our website to have a look at a particular project in more detail. Then that way they also review our other areas of work and the trainings we provide and the opportunities for young people that we offer. So yeah, we do get quite a few inquiries about the areas of work that we are involved in. Yeah. Great.
Okay, Steve, how about the University of Highlands and Islands?
Okay, again, slightly different perspective in that we have had some people contacting us about this, obviously including yourself, but I didn't actually realize it was through EPRP, because nobody actually said. So they didn't say, I've seen your project on the portal, etc., etc. They just kind of contacted me without explaining. I assumed that it basically just comes through the website and the project website, to be honest. So yeah, slightly different experience there.
No, I think it's understandable, especially if it's only the first one. I suppose there's less opportunity for it. So I know you'd mentioned before, Steve, looking at the other people's EPRP pages to get inspiration or to get more of an idea of how to lay your page out a bit. Have either of you used the EPRP for anything else? Steve, do you want to start?
Well, yes. This was my first Erasmus project. I mean, we're involved in another one at the moment. We have another in application and about to apply for another. So for the ones that we've applied for since, I have actually used it to try and find out, I think has been mentioned previously, if what we're looking at is indeed innovative, or whether it's actually been done before, or maybe whether it complements something that's gone on before. So, I mean, that's what I've used it principally for, this kind of tool for just making sure that if we're writing an application that we're hitting the spot in terms of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Maya, how about you?
Yeah, similar to Steve, again, we have used the platform to kind of review what's out there, what kind of projects are being funded, what projects are innovative, but we've also used it for contacting other organizations and forming partnerships and collaborating in fundraising applications, for example.
Brilliant. Okay. So I guess my final question for you both really is, do you have any top tips when it comes to the EPRP? Anything you'd recommend or advise people not to do? Maya?
Yeah, thank you. So I have a few tips to share. So firstly, I would say familiarize yourself with how the platform works. So as Stephen was showing us all those different guidelines and frequently asked questions, they are very helpful. So do go through them. Then I would also say keep your platform up to date. And I think it's really important that you start uploading your results as soon as you have produced any outputs or outcomes for your projects. You can also prepare those titles and descriptions in advance. Try to keep the descriptions quite short but informative. And I've also noticed that if you were to copy from your application form, for example, that language is quite technical. So try to put it in your own words and maybe have someone outside of the partnership to proofread it for you and to make sure they make sense. What else? Make sure that your project card is up to date, and the contact details are accurate, because you do get quite a few inquiries, as at least we do. In terms of your partnership, I would say to keep your partners updated and involve them in this process. Because again, they might see something that you have missed. So it's just a good way of double checking that all the relevant outputs are being uploaded. The last thing I would want to stress is to make sure that you have enough time. So don't leave uploading the results till last minute, because it is a significant part of your final application and it does take a lot of time. I've noticed a couple of times now that leading up to the deadline for the final reports, the platform tends to crash at times. So you're just unable to log on and upload your results. So to avoid any last minute panic, start early. Yeah.
I think that is a very useful tip right there.
Yeah.
Steve, is there anything you want to add to that?
There was one big thing for me, and that was an absolute key lesson for me in this second project that I'm doing, and that is making sure that your outputs are in the right format, and that they include all the right information. So we had quite a few outputs that were, say, in Word documents rather than a PDF, and if I remember correctly, you have to upload PDFs, understandably. So I had to convert Word documents into PDFs. I had other situations where the PDFs that were sent to me from partners weren't quite in the correct format, or they didn't have disclaimers on, or they didn't have logos on. So then I had to convert them from PDF into Word document, correct them, and reconvert them back into a PDF. Now, when you've got like, I was looking through how many documents there were, maybe sort of 40, 50 documents. If you have to do that multiple times, you can imagine it's a huge amount of work. So my advice would be to make sure right from the get-go that when your final documents are being produced by partners, it includes all the necessary information, logos, disclaimers, etc. It's all in the right format, and they're in PDF as well. And that would just save you so much time. It cost me like a whole day, just wasted really. But that was just, I guess, ignorance really on my part.
No, I think that is a really good piece of advice. And if anyone needs information on how to use the emblem, if you go to our promotion and dissemination page, I think Sarah had put it in the chat box earlier. There's a guide on how to use the emblem to make sure you're using it correctly. It is really important to make sure that is being added and used correctly. As you say, you just end up saving yourself time more than anything else. Does anyone have any questions for our case study speakers? Feel free to either add them to the chat box, or if you want to turn on your mic and ask a question verbally, that's fine as well. I see we've got one question around, let me read it, sorry. Is it only the lead school that needs to submit the final report made up from the collaborative final reports from each school and then submit to the EPRP? Stephen, I don't know whether it works differently for schools, but did you have it? I don't know whether, Stephen Green, do you have any input into that?
So for the final report, it's similar to EPRP, where notifications will go directly to the contact person of the lead organisation. So for that question, it should be a yes. So the school that's leading the project will be responsible for all reporting requirements to the UK National Agency, and in turn, they will be the organisation responsible for uploading the results to EPRP. So it is good to have that collaborative approach, to have the partners come in, and especially if they can kind of send reports with you as well. The thing for me with EPRP as well is context, making sure that the results are submitted, but also there is that little bit of background, so they really do make sense, and they make sense to people outside of the sector as well. But yeah, all of that responsibility ultimately lies on the lead organisation. But for further information and also for confirmation, I'd speak to the project officer for your project, and they'll be able to confirm the exact requirements.
Great, thank you, Stephen. Any other questions for Steve or for Maya? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much, both. It was great to hear from you. Really, really interesting presentation. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we are now going to have a quick break. So quick 5-minute opportunity if you need to nip to the loo or go get a cup of tea before we continue. But I think actually just before we do, anyone who's attended these before will now be aware that it would be great if we could just take a little group photo, if that's okay, before everyone disappears. So anyone who would like to be in the photo, if you just want to turn on your cameras now, we can take a little photo. Everyone can rearrange the hair quickly. Yes. Everyone who would like to be involved. Great. It's nice to see so many people turning on their cameras. This is lovely. So Sarah, are you happy to take the photo for us? I don't know if you maybe want to give us a countdown.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm just going to get ready. Just take a screenshot. So yeah, so I'll give you a countdown to 1. So 3, 2, 1. There we go. Brilliant. Thank you.
Lovely.
Everyone.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Okay, so we will have a 5-minute break now, and I'm just going to hand over to my colleague Rich, who's got some little activities and brain teasers for anyone who doesn't want to leave the room. Yes, so thank you very much. We'll be back in 5 minutes then. Okay, so we are going to move to having a bit of a discussion now, and the way we're going to do this is using something called Jamboard. I don't know whether people are familiar with it, but just in case you're not, I will just take you through it. So let me share my screen with you. Okay, so this is what Jamboard looks like. You should see at the top that you've got different frames, they call them. So this is it's like a different slide. So I'll ask you to be pressing through with me as I go. And then you'll see down the side here, you've got like a toolbar. What I'm going to ask you to do is when you see these questions, we would like you to add a sticky note. So that's the one under the select button. You can change the color, whatever you feel suits you or your mood best. Type whatever you want to do, and you'll see that the post-it note will appear. So this is what I would like you to do, please. And I will just share it with the link with you now for you all to join. So that should be in the chat box. And if you could just let me know if you all managed to get onto it okay. So if anyone can't get onto it, if you want to put a message in the chat box or just give me a shout. Everyone on okay? Looks like I can see people joining, which is very exciting. You will get an anonymous animal name. Very, very exciting. Okay, well, as soon as you're on, we can start looking at this first question, basically. So those of you who are using EPRP currently, when did you start working on this? When did you start? At what point in your project did you start adding to this? Drawing final report writing? Yep, okay. Any other times? If everyone wants to just add a post-it note, are we all doing okay with adding post-it notes? No problems. There's no wrong answer, so just give me anything at all, and it's all anonymous. So there's nothing wrong you can say. Okay, that's interesting. So didn't know about EPRP before you got to that point. Oh, they're all coming through now, suddenly from nothing to loads at once. Okay, not used it, but joined this webinar to learn. Great. Hopefully you'll be taking something away from this. Not sure when the most appropriate time would be. I think as Maya was saying earlier, as soon as you've got something relevant and useful, at least to start thinking about it is really helpful. Start thinking about how you would upload it, how you would maybe talk about it. Start using it when the first output is out. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably worth noting that the page only becomes live after your once your project is live, I believe. Stephen Green, please correct me if I'm wrong there. But you can start adding to it at any point. So I think it's worth not saving all of the hassle till the end, basically. Yeah, starting it at the interim reporting stage. Yeah, that's quite interesting. So some people have made a start on it a bit early. Okay, that's great. I think that's probably everything on that one. So if we press the arrow at the top that says next frame, that should take you to 2 out of 6, and we can start looking at the next question. So those of you who have done this before and gone through the whole system, if any of your results were rejected and needed to be redrafted, what changes were required? I know Steve Taylor mentioned this earlier with adding needing to add the disclaimer. Did anyone have the same? Has anyone had anything different that they've been asked to do? Disclaimers and logos. Yep, I think that's a classic one. Anything else? Anything other than just disclaimers and logos? These are the main issues people face. Has anyone had anything they've been told, oh, this isn't really relevant? It looks like everyone's had a clean run so far. Shall we move on to the next question then? Unless people are still adding things. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So this will be 3 out of 6. And the question is, how often would you update your EPRP? So for those of you who said, oh, we do it right at the end, how often do you think you have to add to it? Is it something that you knock it all out in one day? Is it something that you add to days and days at a time as you're going along? For the people who said that someone had started at the interim point, is it something that you look at once a year until the end? After 6-month report, yeah, I think that is sensible. Two or 3 times whilst writing final reports, okay. I suppose also the question is maybe at what point in your project are you getting relevant results that you feel you can use? After updates from overseas partners, yeah. We've constructed a shadow e-twinning project that has logged progress and comment throughout the project study. That's very interesting. Whoever added that point, would you be interested in sharing a bit more about the e-twinning project? If so, just feel free to turn on your mic and let us know a little bit more about how you did that. It's good to see that it's gonna be on your agenda. That's nice.
Can you hear me?
Oh yes, hello.
Hi, Heather. Yeah, no, we just as part of the process thought I had a fairly strong background in e-twinning, and a couple of the other schools in the project also had as well, and it just also allows, because we're a school and we're dealing with children, the collaboration and some of the communication tasks that we shared. It was just a good way of sort of logging all the things that we could do, and we thought ultimately when writing the final report you would have a lot of evidence and data and pictures and things throughout the course of the 2 years, because it's 2 years is quite a long time. So, and I guess you're going to get some kudos hopefully with the quality label through Europe at the end of the e-twinning project as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that you've used like another platform to continue the conversation, and that would you say that it's benefited the project by using these 2 things in a complementary way?
Well, I'm one of the people who put down 1 for experience in the EPRP. I have a lot more experience in e-twinning, so I was more comfortable with using it to sort of log my first experience in an Erasmus KA2, and then, as I said, it's sort of two birds with 1 arrow, if you like, at the end of it. Hopefully we'll have a very good e-twinning project, I'm quite sure. And I just didn't have the experience with the Erasmus side of things, so it's sort of keeping me in check, even from a budgetary sort of point of view, when spending money, logging what I've done, keeping receipts and scanning them under different pages within e-twinning, if familiar with the e-twinning setup.
Yeah, okay, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
That's fine.
Okay, so if we go to the next question then, so 4 out of 6 now. So this, you might tell me that you don't even have a dissemination plan at all, but let's pretend that you do, because, you know, I'm a comms person, I like a plan. Was putting together the EPRP part of your dissemination plan? And so you can add yes or no. It'd be great if you could let us know a little bit more as to how you did this, why, what, if it was, what made you think to do that? If it wasn't, do you think this is something you would do in the future? Yeah, great to see someone saying that it should be. The people that have said yes, is this because you were already quite aware of it? Is it something that you were then able to plan in? Got quite a split down the middle on this one, which is interesting to see. Also, to let you know, we'll be sharing the presentation afterwards, but I'll also share all of these slides on here as well, in case it's helpful for you. Most effective way to reach an international audience. Excellent. Yes, that's really positive. Okay, great. Oh, one more. Part of the plan, we wanted as many channels as possible to share general results of the project as widely as possible. Yeah, I think that's the thing. From a dissemination point of view, I think trying to tap into as many avenues as possible is really important, but also it's important to think about where there are people that are interested in what you're doing. And I think anyone who's part of the Erasmus Plus community is interested in this kind of stuff, and especially if you're hitting on the same topics that other people are looking at. Yeah, it's a great source of inspiration for people, but people do want to network, they do want to connect. So I think reaching out can be a little bit intimidating and maybe something people think they don't have time to do, but I think it can be a really important way to really increase your dissemination. Okay, let's look at question number 5 then. So if we go to next slide, what challenges did you face? So anyone who's been looking at this so far, even people who are just starting out, don't really know what they're doing, what do you think the challenges are that you've had so far? What have you found difficult or not been aware of? Is there anything at all? Yeah, making sure everything's in the right format. Yeah. Relatively easy to populate once you understand it. Yeah, I think it's like anything any new technology, getting used to it can always take a bit of time. Lack of knowledge or confidence. Yeah, I think that's probably something a lot of people could relate to. Yeah, long time. I think making time for it is really important, because you really don't want a last minute panic. As Maya said, these platforms are known to crash when there's absolutely everyone trying to access it at the same time. So making time to plan it in, taking it slowly, and avoiding that last minute panic, I think is really important. And I can see there's one about things not showing up. I think, that's another reason that the earlier you do it, the better, because then if you are having any issues, you can just talk to us, contact the national agency, and we can always try and help you, do our best to see what the issues are, really. Okay, let's take a look then at the final question from our side. Have you found any benefits from using the EPRP? So I mean, we've put a couple here. So if you see one of these as being a benefit, if you want to stick a sticky note in that, what are we going to say? Let's say quadrant. That would be good. Or if you found any other benefits from using it, feel free to add those as well. I think from my side, I'm particularly interested whether anyone has used it for networking successfully, meeting new project partners, potential partners, help to organise outputs, great. Finding a suitable niche for my project idea, I love that, that's really interesting. Increased visibility, excellent. Finding new partners, great. Okay, so people have used it that way. That's really good to see. Anything else anyone would like to add? Okay, great. Well, thank you all for taking part in that. It's very, very interesting to see the different points of view, and hopefully, even though we've got such a range of people here today, hopefully that was interesting for everyone. So if you want to, we'll leave Jamboard now, so you can close that down. Let me just stop sharing. So we are now going to do, if I can get it to come up. Stephen is going to go through a little quiz with you. So hopefully that will so this should hopefully be an opportunity to go through everything you've done so far, that particularly the parts that Stephen has covered. So this is going to be back on Menti. So I've just realised that the Menti number is back on, not on this slide. So if everyone wants to go back to Menti, so that's menti.com, and the code is, I will add it into the chat now. So you can either follow the link that Sarah has sent there, or if you want to do it on your phone, go to menti.com and type in 161477 as the code. And then hopefully you should all be able to get on. So looks like we have got some people joining us now, which is brilliant. Please do let me know if you are struggling at all. I will just share the screen now. So how many people have we got here? People. Is that anyone? Is there anyone else who wants to join? If you just verbally give me a heads up before we start. Okay, we will make a start then. So Stephen, do you want to take over?
Yes, thanks very much, Heather. Yes, there's always a test at the end of these activities, yes, we'll now carry out a short quiz, and it's just to see what project results you would deem as acceptable within EPRP. So this goes back to the presentation earlier. So just to clarify, there will be voting buttons involved, and it's just to choose whether you would publish a result if it's of satisfactory quality, whether you wouldn't publish the result because it's not relevant, or if you would reject the result, which returns it back to the would return it back to the beneficiary in order to make necessary changes. So there's 5 example questions coming up shortly. So yes, let's start the quiz. Okay, so this is the first question. A copy of the minutes from a final transnational project meeting. So would you publish a copy of minutes from a final transnational project meeting? There's a countdown on this, interesting. That's brilliant. Yeah, so the majority were correct, so we wouldn't publish that. It's because it's not a relevant result for dissemination on the platform. It is important, obviously, for beneficiaries to keep evidence of all meeting minutes, especially transnational project meetings, especially in case of any checks or audits. However, they would not be expected to be uploaded to the platform for wider dissemination. Okay, we'll start the next question. It's very time sensitive, isn't it? So fingers at the ready. Example 2 is a photograph of all participants from a final training activity, complete with all their certificates. So this is a group photograph of all participants from a final training activity, complete with all of their certificates. Would you publish, not publish, or would you reject it for further changes? Very good. Okay, so again, the majority have gone with publish, and that is ultimately the correct answer. So according to the Commission guidance, photos and videos of relevant project activities are relevant results, and they can also showcase the project achievements and engagement with participants. So we would generally also see other results to complement the photos, and more importantly, please utilise the descriptions within EPRP to support the photographs. So if you upload lots of pictures of participants in Seville with no context, it really does help to obviously give a background of what the mobility is and ultimately what the certificates are there for. Okay, on to question 3. So would you publish 3 out of 4 units from an online MOOC which has been completed? So this is 3 out of the 4 units from an online MOOC which has now been completed. Would you publish, not publish, or would you reject it for further changes? Very good. Okay, so again, the majority have gone with reject, and that is correct. So although it is a relevant result, because one of the units is missing, it's not finalised. So following the rejection, the beneficiary would need to upload the 4th unit of the MOOC, and the result would then be assessed by the National Agency once again. And if it was complete and satisfactory, it would then be published. Okay, on to example number 4. Example number 4 is a finalised suite of training materials assessed as good quality but missing the Erasmus Plus logo. I think we know where this one is going, but yes, a finalised suite of training materials assessed as good quality, but it's missing the Erasmus Plus logo.
Oh.
Something went wrong. I think it's because that question was too easy. So there you go. Let's see if refreshing actually works. This is quite similar to using a lot of the platforms that we use, such as Mobility Tool Plus and EPRP, where if anything does go wrong, you can always refresh and hopefully everything will be rectified.
Oh gosh, it might be my internet, guys. I do apologise. Maybe my internet's struggling.
Yeah, so yeah, this is a really good example of obviously, as was raised in the discussion, obviously, is to make sure that results are uploaded early because similar to Mobility Tool Plus, EPRP can be subject to maintenance and updates. And another consideration is also is that when you do actually upload the results, there's a submit for approval button at the bottom. So it's just making sure that that's clicked as well. But if you do have any issues with EPRP, any synchronization issues, for example, once again, please speak to your project officer and everything will be fine, just like Mentimeter. Here we go. So here we go. Yeah. So it's once again the most popular answer is the correct one. So it's ultimately the case that would be rejected back to the beneficiary to add the Erasmus Plus logo as per the guidance on the promotion and dissemination webpage, and then that would be resubmitted, and ultimately it would be published from there. Okay, on to the final question. Fingers crossed. Okay, and the results from a previous project that the beneficiary would like to showcase and promote. So would you publish results from a previous project that the beneficiary would like to showcase and promote? Would you not publish them at all? Or do you believe they would be rejected? Okay, and for the final question, yes, once again, the most popular answer is the correct one. Ultimately, as much as it could be seen as an eligible result, it's just not relevant for that particular project. So it's just to be mindful that all results relating to the specific project should be uploaded to EPRP. Yes, it's especially with regards to the required outputs, especially for Caption 2. If there is anything that's relevant and covers other projects, it might be worth maybe putting that in as part of a link, maybe, but it has to be a specific result for that specific project. So, as stated earlier, if you are unsure whether a particular result should be published or is acceptable, once again, please speak to your National Agency Project Officer or allocated contact, or for further support, you can send an email to the relevant Erasmus Plus helpline inbox. Okay, I'll hand over to Heather now.
Sorry about that. My internet went. Can you all hear me okay? Everybody hear me? Still telling me that I can't, that my internet is gone, but hopefully you can hear me okay. Did you manage to finish the last question? Would you like me to put the last question up quickly? Stephen?
You can do. Yeah, I think we finished it okay.
Okay, we'll wrap it up there then. Apologies for that. I knew
okay.
I knew my internet would have to crash out on one of these days. I've made it through nearly 3, but it had to go at some point. Yeah, I mean, I think that we're pretty much at the point of wrapping up now, guys. I think that is everything. Does anyone have any questions or anything that they'd like to share with the group? Any experiences? If not, then we will just. The one thing I would ask before we disappear is Sarah will be adding a questionnaire back into the chat box. Please do fill in this questionnaire. It really helps us. It's super short. It won't take you long at all. But it really does help us just in terms of improving these sessions, especially because we're so new to them, so we don't really know what we're doing. But hopefully you're enjoying it. Hopefully it's helpful and it's working. So share any thoughts in there. Did you like Mentimeter? Did you like Jamboard? Did we talk too much? Let us know what your thoughts are. But thank you very much for joining today, and I really hope it was helpful. We'll stick around for a little bit if anyone does have any questions, but if not, have a lovely day.